Am I the asshole for getting an entire table for myself after my husband and his mom didn't save me a seat? I'll start this off by saying that I, F32, have been with my husband Bob, M39 for 3 years, married for 1. His mom has a habit of keeping me out of most of their functions with the excuse of, "You work too much." Not true, because sometimes I do make myself available but yet find myself excluded. Last week, his mom invited us for a celebratory dinner at the restaurant after she completed her recovery. I had to wait that day, but I let her and everyone know that I'd be there at 8 p.m. Bob obviously knew I was coming. Thing is, when I arrived to the restaurant I saw that the table was full. All chairs had been taken and I just stood there with complete puzzlement while Bob and his mom just stared at me. His mom then told me there was no place left for me and that I could either have Bob get up and take his seat or go home. I was so upset, but instead of going home I just went and took an entire table for me. Bob and his mom watched with their eyes popping out of their heads like they saw something so shocking. NGL, I did get weird looks from the guests, but so did Bob and his mom. It was awkward in all honesty. I had my dinner, dessert, then went home. I saw Bob and his mom staring grudgingly while I was making my way out. He got home an hour later and yelled saying I embarrassed his mom in front of her guests. I yelled asking what the fuck was I supposed to do after I got denied a seat, and he told me that it wasn't his nor his mom's fault guests arrived before me and took all the available chairs. I told him he could have saved me a chair. He said that I could have just left instead, and reminded me that I was a guest, and that I shouldn't expect this level of entitlement to be accepted. He then went on about how I ruined the entire dinner for him and his mom with what I did and has been pouting about it for days now. I don't get it, I really don't. Was my expectation really that entitled? I mean, as his wife he should have saved me a seat. But clearly I'm missing something here. Not the asshole. Is this level of disrespect really what you want for the next 20 years? Not the asshole. 1. They could have booked a table with the appropriate seating. 2. They could have pulled up a chair and budged up if a random extra guest turned up. 3. They could have split the table into 2. 4. They could have texted you before you got there and said, "There's an issue with the table." Why are you married to someone who would literally sit there staring at you instead of do something to help and then blame the situation on you? NTA. I don't understand why you would be with someone who clearly doesn't view you as family. Him being your husband is pretty bad. Not sure if it's always been like this. But wow, that's a horrible way to treat you. Not the asshole. Mom and husband tried to humiliate you and got pissy when you turned the tables. I hope you do it again. Not the asshole. And I salute you. I could have never done that because I am too much of a chicken, but believe me, if I had been a guest, and grasped the situation, I would have stared too. In admiration. Not the asshole. You're my sprit animal. I'm super proud of you. Dessert too. Am I the asshole for touching my belly? I am genuinely confused if I'm the asshole or not. I appreciate your feedback. Background. I am currently in my 3rd trimester of pregnancy and am due this fall. My sister and her husband have 2 girls and decided they were done having children a few years ago, so she got an IUD and he got a vasectomy. Well, last year they had a reversal and a removal because they decided they wanted more kids. Now on to the issue at hand. I found out I was pregnant quite a while ago, and since the day my sister found out about my pregnancy she has refused to talk to me or be where I am. This was until Mother's Day. She showed up and ignored me. Since then my mother has told me not to bring up my baby, my pregnancy, or anything related. My mom thinks that me ignoring my pregnancy is for the best when I am around everyone to not hurt her feelings. A couple days ago we were all at my parents' house and I got a really strong kick to the ribs and I reached down and rubbed my belly to ease the cramp. While doing so my sister made a face and continued her conversation with her husband. My mother on the other hand started to scold me for rubbing my pregnancy in my sister's face. Since this happened I have been shushed and ignored by my mom when it is anything pregnancy related. I'm tired of my baby being avoided like the plague. No one even cared to ask what we plan on naming her. I'm to the point tears while writing this with frustration and confusion. Am I the asshole for touching my belly? Not the asshole. Your family is toxic. If they're treating you like this while pregnant, imagine how they'll treat your baby. Don't let them grow up believing that their family hates them for no reason. It's not your fault your sister is sensitive. I want to know what name you're thinking of if you're willing to tell me. So your sister, who already has 2 kids, chose to utilize a long-term method of birth control, whose husband chose to get a vasectomy, and has now magically changed her mind about wanting more kids, is offended that you're pregnant? And is so offended that you merely rubbing your pregnant belly to help relieve pain from a kicking baby sets her off? I honestly have no words for this. She and your mom both need to get over themselves. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Shushed and ignored by your mom? Your sister already has kids. Not like some women who can't have them. Tell her to grow up. Not the asshole. I wouldn't bother letting them know when bub is born. This is some serious next-level petty shit on their behalf. 100% not the asshole. Your family sounds horrible and I'm so sorry you have to deal with that and the stress involved. Congratulations though. I would consider cutting them out altogether. Don't tell any of them a thing. Not even when you give birth. And if they say anything, just reply that they didn't want to know. Not the asshole. Congratulations. I, for one, am very excited to hear the news, and would love to hear her name. Your sister and mom are not you. Not by a long shot. I hope the rest of your pregnancy goes smooth as butter, and that they eventually see they were and are in the wrong Purple Heart. Am I the asshole for laughing at my neighbor and calling them stupid before closing the door on them? I 25M live in my family's cottage which I was given ownership of. The cottage itself is a waterfront property facing a medium-sized lake. My family has been living here for generations as my great-grandfather originally bought it before passing it down, eventually leading to me. My neighbors are a different story as many of the people I have known since childhood has moved out. The houses that my neighbors once had have been torn down and replaced with designer-style homes. With the construction of these homes came new neighbors and an WA of which I am not a member. And #X200B. My problem started with my next-door neighbor Sophie, F5060, overfishing. One day after doing some canoe fishing I was approached by Sophie on my beach. She started asking if it was legal to fish on the lake, to which I said it was as long as you pay the $25 per year license. After that, I said that I had to go as I had caught some fish and I wanted to start processing them for dinner as it was getting late. After our conversation, I did not hear from her for over 2 weeks. My encounter with her this time was not in person but through a letter. In this letter, she wrote about how dangerous fishing is to the environment and why I should stop. In response, I chose to simply chuck it in my recycling bin and ignore her as it wasn't worth my time. And #X200B. My most recent encounter was 2 days ago while I had some friends over. It was in the afternoon when I had ran back into the house for some more beers along with one of my friends. While grabbing the drinks we heard a knock at the door. When I answered the door it was Sophie and she had another letter. Before handing the letter she said that she had tried to be diplomatic and now she has had enough and has a letter from the WA. Admittedly I was a bit tipsy at the time and in response, I laughed and called her stupid for believing the WA can do anything before closing the door on her. And #X200B. After sobering up I feel conflicted. On one hand I feel that I was justified in my actions because my fishing is none of her business. On the other hand I feel that I could have dealt with her in a more tactful way. Am I an asshole? It's kind of ironic as an individual fishing for their own food in a canoe is about as sustainable as it can get. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. She's bordering on harassment. Not only that, I'm sure she's lying as the WA knows you're not a member. Which would mean that they can't do anything to do. Not only that, and WA can't control how often and where you fish. This woman is the reason a vast majority of Americans refuse to live in an area with an WA. Not the asshole. This reminds me of a situation experienced by my friend who lived, and worked, on a farm that has been in his family multi-generations. Over time, surrounding land got developed into luxury subdivisions, and the new neighbors, who paid top dollar for pastoral homes, fussed and complained about the sounds and smells of the animals on his farm. Send her a letter, telling her that if she comes back onto your property, you will call the police and have her trespassed and report her to her WA. Then, post a sign at the entrance to your property stating, "No trespassing, this means you, Sophie." Not the asshole. P.S. Yes, I know her WA cannot do anything about her coming onto his property, but if she is going to issue empty threats, turnabout is fair play. Info. I am dying to know how fishing is bad for the environment? I feel like you're sitting on a gold mine of material here. Not the asshole. You are not part of the WA and they have no power over you. Whatever you do, don't sign up for it. Am I the asshole for not letting an obese woman adopt a dog? I work at an animal shelter, so I basically get paid to play with dogs. My favorite days are the ones where I spend my 8-hour shift throwing frisbees and playing chase with dogs in the yard. So naturally, I fell in love with Rocky. Rocky was taken to us several months ago by a couple that didn't have the time, energy to care for him. He is a breed that will destroy furniture if not adequately exercised. But when he is exercised, he is a very good boy. When I let him out of his kennel he showers me with kisses, and I'm always reluctant to put him back. In the several months I've known him I've hardly seen him tired. Because of his activity level, he's gotten no adoption applicants. That changed at an adoption event a few weeks ago. Rocky jumped on a woman and attacked her with kisses. Instead of pushing him away, she embraced him. It was love at first sight. Only problem? She was morbidly obese and drenched in sweat when it wasn't warm. I know you can't judge fitness by looks, but I've never met someone her size fit enough to run 2+ hours a day with a hyperactive dog or chase him when he jumps the fence. The woman asked about adopting Rocky, so I interrogated her, as we do with all adopters. She gave me mostly yellow-green flags. She worked full-time, but had flexible hours and could work from home. She lived in an apartment, but next to a dog park etc. But I couldn't shake the uneasiness. I asked about her activity level and she said she had an active lifestyle, but didn't elaborate. Active lifestyle has many meanings nowadays. I learned after having this job for a while that you have to go with your gut and prioritize animals over people's feelings. As excited as this woman was about Rocky, I saw him going home with her, getting little to no exercise, trashing a couch or two, and then being taken back here or worse, to a kill shelter. I'd rather he spend a few more months here, with staff who can meet his needs, and wait for a better home. I told her she couldn't have him, and suggested she look at smaller animals like cats. She got mad and said things I won't say here. I didn't mention weight, but I think she knew that was the reason I turned her away. I briefly doubted my decision. What if she was a good fit for Rocky? What if Rocky spends years in the shelter because I turned her away? But as I saw her struggle to walk to her car, I knew I was right. My boss said he would do the same thing. Now apparently the woman I turned away has a large social media following, and she's been talking crap about the shelter, calling us fatphobic, and urging followers to post bad reviews of us and not to donate to us. Now people are leaving nasty reviews and someone is harassing the owner via email. The owner also says I did the right thing, but I'm unsure. The emails have been getting worse and worse. I fear we will lose funds and adopters, all because I was too judgmental. The animals are my #1 priority, but should I have just let Rocky go? Am I the asshole? You are the asshole. I know you can't judge fitness by looks, and then you immediately did just that. The best thing to do would have been a home check and 2-week foster trial. You are the asshole. The question is, can she provide the means for his exercise needs? You assume because she is obese she can't. That's absolute bullshit. First of all, there are plenty of regular-size folks who don't provide their dogs with the level of activity they need. Second, how do you know she won't supplement what she can't do with doggy daycare, dog park trips? Extra walks with dog walkers? The answer: you don't. You discriminated against her based on her size. You are the asshole. I know plenty of obese owners who do more with their dogs than fitter owners. This is why a bunch of dogs in shelters will never find homes. Because people like yourself and your boss will turn down good homes in search of the perfect home. And you know what? There aren't enough perfect homes, a subjective idea anyways, for all the animals that need them. Next time you see someone seeking an animal from a breeder, don't complain. Because you're part of the reason why. Who wants to try adopting an animal just to have the staff being condescending and rude about your weight? And yes, of course she knew it was about her weight when you sat there and suggested she look at cats instead. You are the asshole. How do you know that this woman wasn't adopting a dog to help her continue on a fitness journey? Dogs are wonderful judges of character and Rocky chose this woman for a reason. You are the asshole. You have no idea what her life is like, how she'll interact with Rocky. I'm smaller but I'm lazy as fuck sometimes, but I'm sure you'd give Rocky to me immediately. You overstepped and became a judgmental, fat-phobic asshole and deprived a dog of a loving home. I hope the lack of funds opened yours and your colleagues' eyes to how shitty y'all are. Also, she could have needed Rocky as much as Rocky needed her. He could have been her motivation and vice versa. You are the asshole. Animal shelter interrogations like this And people like you who work there are part of the reason there are so many animals in shelters in need of homes. It sounds like y'all have a serious, holier-than-thou attitude. No wonder people go to breeders to get pets. You are the asshole big time.